And I just remember around that time asking God for direction and just giving me a sign and just show me, God, am I on the right track? And this isn't just professionally, but personally too. I had just ended a relationship with someone, and I was just like, I just need confirmation. And when I got that call from Tiffany, I was like, whoa.
I want to talk about how your last comic standing experience was, because that was like such a big deal for comics to be able to get last comic or even just audition for it. It was such a big deal.
Yeah, it was. So I had gotten this manager after doing Lopez Tonight. I'm not even gonna say his name. Nice man, but he was so obsessed with me getting headshots. My brother nicknamed him Headshot. He was so obsessed with me getting new headshots. He's always talking about headshots, and he just got my nerves with that. Anyway, he got me the audition for Last Comic Standing, and I was in front of Paige Hurwitz, and I didn't know Wanda was in the audience, but she was. And let's track back. I met Wanda because she was working with Bruce Helford and all them. So when I was a PA back in the day, I used to cart her around on the cart sometimes when they had to go to the studio meetings and stuff like that. So, we kind of had a rapport with one another, and she was always cool to me. And I think word got to her that I did stand up too, which was cool. So fast forward to the Last Comic Standing audition, it went well. And that was my first time meeting Paige Hurwitz or seeing her. So that was cool.
And Paige is Wanda's partner.
Yes, her
for a company.
Right. She's the co-owner of Push It Productions with Wanda. So yeah, that was a great experience. I mean, just great exposure. Who were the judges? It was Keenan Wayans, Roseanne, and Russell Peters. And Russell Peters was so... They were all great, but Russell particularly, he retweeted one of my jokes, and he even told me after the show, he said, I really, really loved your stuff. And he was like, I'm going to be in Syracuse, and if you want to open for me at the Funny Bone, you're more than welcome to, be my opener. And he was just really great. But ironic thing was, he ended up not doing the gig, but Dean Edwards, who is one of the comics on They Ready, did the gig. And I know Dean and have a relationship with him too. And I reached out to him. I was like, hey, I see you're doing a Funny Bone. And he let me do a spot during his set. But, that was a cool moment. But, yeah, all Last Comic Standing related moments.
What I love hearing is that you started planting seeds, or seeds were getting planted with Wanda Sykes very early.
Mm-hmm.
And the wonderful thing is, this business is so small. You will meet people over and over again. Mm-hmm. And so share your journey with us about what it's been like with Wanda. Because she's been a champion for you.
For sure. Yeah, I see her as a big sister, mentor, and one of the greatest comics, really. People like to say, she's one of the great female comics. No, she's one of the great comics.
Amen.
And
Wanda Sykes! No.
I feel like she doesn't get her
due.
Her just due, and that makes me mad. That last special she did was complete fire. But yeah, when I was a PA, I used to see her around, and I did PA stuff. Like sometimes they would use us for, her show's needs or whatever. And, I used to have to, because Bruce Helford had to deal with all the shows that he was doing simultaneously with the Drew Carey show. So, I used to have to drive her in the carts or whatever. I had done that once or twice. you know, and I got to talk to her and get to know her. And she was real cool. I think she was even considering hiring me as an assistant, but I didn't know how to deal with dogs, and I know she had her dog Riley. And I was like, you know, I told the girl that was asking me, you know, if I dealt with dogs, I said, I don't know dogs like that. I pet them. I'm real awkward. I like dogs, don't get me wrong, but like I'm real awkward with them because I just didn't grow up with them. So, but she was cool back then, you know. I didn't, and you know, even when I was interacting with her then, I wasn't thinking, oh, I need to, you know, tell jokes around her so she could see that I'm funny. You know, I can't make somebody like that laugh. You know, at least that in my mind, right. As a PA, I wasn't thinking that. So
then Paige, you got to see Paige while doing Last Comic Standing.
Yeah, that's where and then Hugh Moore, I have to shout out Hugh.
Yes, comic writer.
Hugh Moore, who was also a good friend, mentor to me. He actually told Paige about me, you know, because I used to see Hugh at open mics. We did a lot of open mics together. And, you know, he's had relationships with Paige and Wanda and all of them and have worked with them. Probably from back in New York days, because that's where he's from. But Paige told me, she said, Hugh Moore really is the first person that told me about you.
Wow.
So I have to shout him out. But, yeah, so my time meeting Paige, the first time meeting her was through Last Comic Standing. And so I kind of developed a relationship with them and with Push It Productions.
So when did you start working with them that you started writing?
So
as a writer?
2019, they had me work with them on a project, and Tiffany was involved with that. And I worked with them. They liked what I did. And that was really my first time really talking to Tiffany, because I used to see Tiffany around here and there occasionally. But I never really had conversations with her. You know, it was kind of like, hi. She probably doesn't even remember saying hi to me, you know. And she kind of like started to have like a buzz around. When did her buzz start? Maybe like people knew her because she did Who's Got Jokes.
Well, she was the darling at the Laugh Factory.
Yeah,
you know, she was Jamie's protege.
Comedy camp.
You know, from a kid, he kind of nurtured her. So her name was out there. At least, I mean, I knew her from the Laugh Factory.
Exactly.
Because he really, she probably was one of the few comics that he really like got behind.
He
like
nurtured. He nurtured.
You know,
her.
Tiffany. So, I want to. She's been doing it. She's another one who was doing it for a long time before Girl Trip.
Yep.
You know, like everybody thought this was a new person, but she had been diligent. Again, another person being diligent, working their craft, honing it in, and I got to see her. I don't know, maybe 5 years before she did Girl Trip, because she was doing a class with Margie Haber.
Okay.
And I remember being very impressed, the acting teacher. And I remember being very impressed that she was getting coached by Margie Haber, because first of all, most actors of color, most comics of color will not go get coaching. You know, if you have comics of color that take a stand-up class in the beginning, that's good enough for them. And then once they start working, they feel they've arrived.
Right.
Whereas most white actors, comics, they're always getting coaching and having people help them write their jokes. You know, they have. They see it more of a business.
Right.
We don't sometimes. So I was very impressed with her, just to say, oh, she's doing her homework.
Oh yeah.
She's not just she's not sliding by on the fact that she does stand up. You know, because stand up is such a mercurial thing, and a lot of people think you can get on a stage and tell jokes and then you've arrived, and there's craft to it. There's craft. You have to put in the time. You got to pay those dues. You know, you got to go to those dives if you want to work out your set. a big comedy club is not going to pick you up and go, oh yeah, come and just do whatever you want.
Right.
There are too many great comics already out there for them to take a chance on an unknown who doesn't even have an act.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's why Mitzi was so great, because she was taking everybody on. I love you, Mitzi, Miss Mitzi. Okay, go ahead. So
No, that's true. It is so saturated too. It's like, who's gonna just
right.
say, hey, come to the stage?
Guess what? I've got this fabulous little bundle just for you, because you are a fabulous actor. I got it for you. So what do I got for you? Let me tell you what I got for you. I got the PR cheat sheet, which every actor needs. You need to know how to do your own PR until you get that job where you can pay for a PR person. Then I have the 12-step audition. That's another cheat sheet. Sometimes you get freaked out at auditions and you don't know what to do. Well, my 12-step audition cheat sheet will help you and guarantee that you will slam your audition every time. And the third thing I got for you is the casting sites. I have a list of casting sites so you can go and just submit yourself for that next big part. How does that sound? It sounds good, doesn't it? Well, what I love about stand-up, just like acting, is that I always say, the bus comes by every day with a whole group of comics and actors.
Yeah.
But they don't stay. You know what I mean? It's like they
true.
get off, they kind of peek in, they want their moment, and then they go, you mean I gotta wait?
Yeah.
And then I gotta wait,
Yeah.
and then I gotta wait, and then they leave.
Yeah.
And it's like New Year's resolutions.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants to do stand up at the beginning of the year.
Oh, I hate that time of year too. Ugh.
By February 14th, they've gone home on the bus.
They're gone.
Yeah, so you just have to know how to ride that wave. It's like, so anyway.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
But back to Tiffany, though. Tiffany and I, we were kind of like two ships passing the night, because when I was working at the Laugh Factory, I don't remember seeing her that much. And when I stopped working there, then I would see her. She would host the weekend shows a lot. So she was kind of like the weekend host. And I would see her then. But I never really talked to her. I didn't really have, the relationship that she had with a lot of the women that were in the first season of They Ready. And I really didn't get to know her until around 2019, when we worked together on something with Push It Productions. And it was funny because she was talking to me. She was like, she liked, what I was doing, and she said, we about to make some money together. And I was like, for real? And she dapped me up on it. I was like, okay, Tiffany. And I really, people say things to you.
Yes.
In this town, and you're like, okay. And I didn't really know her like that. And I was like, well, if she said
we love you, Tiffany Haddish. That's all I have to say.
I love you, Tiff. But when you said that to me, I was like, okay. And I tucked it in. I even told a few people, I said, you know what Tiffany told me? They were like, girl, and I was like, okay. And then, lo and behold, in 2020, she called me and was like, I want you to be on season 2 of They Ready. I was like, really? I was just like in complete shock. I had no idea. And I was like, you did? You said it to me. You told me. And she fulfilled the promise.
And so you've been able to work steady with Wanda's company since 2019?
Yeah, I've been on projects, on and off through Push It Productions, which has been great. It's been a great experience, a great learning, enrichment, a lot of things, I didn't know, and it's like I'm getting those experiences now, and it's been awesome.
And how do you like being in the writer's room now as a comic? Because you're coming in more from a comic perspective.
Well, I haven't really been in a real proper writer's room as a writer because of COVID.
Oh, okay.
So it's different.
Okay.
Even through Zoom, even if it is a Zoom writer's room, I mean, things are getting done, and I guess it would be getting done the same way as in a writer's room. But I've been in a writer's room as a PA and an assistant, and I know that the dynamic is quite different when it's in person. But as a comic, though, it's been great to be able to contribute from that perspective, So it's great.
So one of the things that has tickled me in the last few months is that when you were doing They Ready, you talked about Dudamel.
Yeah.
You got to meet Dudamel.
I did. I met Gustavo. I was a moderator for a conversation between him and Common.
We should probably say, for those of you who don't know who Gustavo Dudamel is conducts the Philharmonic in Los Angeles.
Yes.
And he is amazing. And did you put a tweet out?
Okay, here's what happened.
What happened was...
So, this violinist in Philadelphia, a black woman named Alberta Douglas. Shout out to Alberta. I love you, girl. She is awesome. She put the clip on her Facebook. And so the clip started to circulate around the classical music world, particularly with the black folks that play classical music, but just classical music world in general. And people were like, oh my gosh, she is speaking my thoughts, it's speaking my heart. And I was like, wow. And I was seeing comments like, I feel seen, and all these things. Because I wasn't just talking about my crush on Gustavo, but I was also talking about, how classical music, you feel like you have to act a certain way, to be able to enjoy it. And it's a shame that you can't just really express yourself like you would express yourself if you were enjoying something. Right. It's almost like you have to keep it tucked in when you're listening to classical music, because that's the environment. That's how they set it. So it was just funny to just hear these reactions. And I was like, this is crazy how this joke has resonated with so many people. And then something told me, reach out to the LA Philharmonic. And so I reached out to them, and they were like, we've been looking for you. I was like, what? And they were like, this clip has been circulated around, the board members. I was like, oh my gosh. And I said, that means Gustavo saw it too. So basically the rest was history. They connected with Netflix, and they posted it on their socials, and Gustavo said I was his favorite comedian now, and he's a great guy. Shout out to his wife. He is very married. I'm not trying to be a home wrecker. I don't think I could, because she's gorgeous and an actress and lovely woman. But yeah.
So you got to host a thing he did with Common.
With Common, they were just having a discussion about music and, the commonalities. And yeah, it was great. It was just a great experience. And, it's funny because I had a conversation with Gustavo prior to us doing the sit down with all three of us. And I could tell he was a little like, who is this person? I saw her.
Stalker?
She was talking about me. Yeah, she crazed. But then I just started talking about music, because I was a band kid growing up. I played the clarinet and tenor saxophone. And I just started talking about music and how I was like, I just bought a clarinet again, and, I'm going to take it up again and start playing. He was like, that's cool. And we just started talking about music, and I could just see him ease up. And I relaxed, too, when he relaxed. And it was just a great conversation, It was cool.
Well, when you got to meet him, I was so excited because I was like, it couldn't have happened to a better person. I'm so excited.
Talk about manifestation and just like seeing like something that you like talked about, because I've been talking about Gustavo since he came out here. Okay, it's not like it just came to me like, and people were telling me, it was like, I remember we used to joke about him, at the mics and stuff.
So I'm a big believer in visualization and manifestation and goal setting and prayer. I'm a big believer, but I believe that if you visualize it and you really start putting it in you, that stuff happens. Because it's happened to me all my life without knowing people. I didn't have the connection, but I had the vision and I had the passion, and it just happened. So, how are you with visualization?
I do it a lot. I do visualization for shows even, and just seeing myself, having great shows and killing and just flowing. Um, Also, particularly with They Ready, because it happened in the middle of COVID. And I had just gotten laid off on my job and
Another job.
Remember
job.
This was the elevator
she
job.
She takes many, many jobs. Okay.
This is an elevator. I was working for an elevator company. I was with them for a few years, and it was nice. I had benefits and everything, and I don't know if it was before I got laid off or after, but it was the vicinity. I was asking God for direction, because right before COVID too, I also had filmed, and your daughter Lexi actually opened for me. I filmed a half hour at a little rinky-dink bar in Burbank. I was like, I just want to have 30 minutes on tape. Maybe I could shop it to somebody, maybe not. And I wanted to do it at least 5 more times and kind of run it and just get a good feeling and rhythm for it. It was about 30-40 minute set. And I just remember around that time asking God for direction and just giving me a sign and just show me, God, am I on the right track? And this isn't just professionally, but personally too. I had just ended a relationship with someone, and I was just like, I just need confirmation. And when I got that call from Tiffany, I was like, whoa. I was like, I didn't know it was going to be like that. Like, that was like, it was almost like God was putting his foot down. Like, here it is. Like, he just stamped it. Because I was, like, making some radical changes in my life, and in my thought pattern. Even just putting together that show for that bar and just doing that 30 minutes for, like, how many people were there? Like 15 people? 20 people? If that? But I felt so good after doing it. But little did I know I was prepping for my Netflix special.
Amen.
I didn't know it was going to be a Netflix special.
Right.
But I was prepping. I was prepping for it. I had no idea that's what I was prepping for. But it was that whole, if you build it, they will come.
Yes. And as you said that, this week as I've been praying, what the prayer is, plan for the victory. Mm-hmm. Plan for the victory. I was listening to Lisa Olstein-Comas, who I love. Mm-hmm. I love Stephen Furtick, but Lisa Comas was talking. That's Joel's sister. Lisa was talking about planning for the victory. Mm-hmm. And something she had said that like energized me was, not shame on me, shame mm-hmm. off me. Mm-hmm. So as we're planning for the victory in our career, or those steps, Lord, I see my house, I see my car, I see this, that your being, mm-hmm. the energy in your being changes because you're seeing it in a way that makes you feel like you already have it. Mm-hmm. And so I'm a big believer in praying and in manifesting stuff. Mm-hmm. Just Lord, we in this together, let's go. And speaking that out of your mouth, mm-hmm. so that your words make room for you. They either open the doors or they shut them, mm-hmm. depending on what kind of words you're putting. So mm-hmm. you talking about making a radical change, you can track that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I really had to clean house, personally, spiritually. I mean, COVID was really instrumental in that too, because it's like, it was like a forced isolation. Although I'm a little bit of a loner, like I'm okay with being by myself. Like I have so much fun. I really do.
But what made you decide, what was the thing that made you go, change? It's about change now.
It was a lot of stuff, just personal, relationship stuff, career stuff, because I was just trying to figure out, like, where is this going? Am I just going to, work my 9 to 5 and then do stand up at night? And, is this going to be the routine? Or, should I try something else? Try to up the ante and, try to go the next level and not be so comfortable, because it's not, change is never comfortable, so it's about getting comfortable with the discomfort, if that makes sense.
Yes.
That was a lot of it. And then I also found too, when you start getting in a certain mindset and a certain place, you'll start to draw people that are also in that place.
Very important. Very important. If you want to be in a certain place, you need to start shifting the people you hang out with. Because a lot of people don't want to change, especially artists. They like it, it may be miserable, but it's familiar. And so you have to go, wait a minute, I want to get there. So if I want to get there, I need to cut this stuff out.
And it's not about, like, being like, I'm better than you type thing, but it's like, you just start to realize, sometimes people are bringing things in your life that's anchoring you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's hindering you.
Yeah, and you don't even realize it.
Yeah. And there's a lot to be said. Anthony Robbins talks about this a lot. He says, if you want to know who a person is, look at the 4 or 5 people, the closest 4 or 5 people around them. Mm-hmm. Because that energy that those people have, that gets on you. Yeah. And if you're with, when I first came out here, and I was hanging out with actors. I was hanging out with actors that were like hustlers, man. They were doing stuff, and I was like, yeah, I'm doing that, and that energy brings you along. Mm-hmm. It brings you along. I remember being at a comedy club a few years ago at the Ice House, and this comic who I consider well-to-do, he turned to me, he said, our group hasn't done well. And I said, I don't know what group you're talking about. My group has done very well. We're doing well. But it was like, he was trying to lump me in his group. I was like, no, I'm not part of that. I said, no. I said, see, what happened was I got left back. But that's my group. Right. I'm not part of this group.
Right. Get that off me.
But yeah, you don't realize you're speaking things that block your success. Mm-hmm. And you have to speak. I'm doing this, I'm moving in this, I'm going there, I'm happening this. It's like, no, I'm not part of this.
And Tiffany's is big on that.
Yes, she is. And I like that about her.
She's big on that. And it's funny because I told her right before my taping, she's like, you nervous? And I said, yeah. I said, but my ancestors are with me. And she was like, that just gave me a shiver, girl. I said, but we connect on that level. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's like, I don't talk to her every day, but there is a familiarity and a knowing, Yes. Ida Rodriguez is another one too, who was just very supportive and talking to her as well. And I know, you just...
Another wonderful comic.
Yes. And it's like when you meet people like that are on that level, and you know what I'm saying? You're on that spiritual plane where you're just, you're all about the good stuff. It's like, it's just wonderful to be around people like that are secure in who they are. And you could just be yourself, and, you don't feel...
And you shouldn't accept anything less. That's the thing, is like it's like sometimes you have to, in the Bible, it talks about forced pruning. Mm-hmm. God prunes those things from you to make you better.
Right.
And so I believe that is my job to prune things from my life as well, so that I don't have to get mad at God when he prunes it, because I've already started pruning it myself. So right. I want to be a good steward. Right. I want to be that good steward to say, you know what, God, you brought me here for a reason, and it wasn't to be hanging in a corner talking bad about people.
Right.
It was to fulfill a mission. So let's get on with the mission. What do I have to do to get there?
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
and I think that's, you know, especially for people of color, artists of color, we have to learn that language to say, you know, because we are so in the victim mindset. I remember Jackson Purdue about 20 years ago gave me this book. At least 15 years ago, he gave me this book called The Four Agreements. And that book changed my life because I won't get all the four agreements right, but the one agreement is don't make assumptions. Do your best, knowing that your best is always going to be different depending on your physical stamina. If you're not feeling good, your best is only going to be maybe at 80%.
Right.
You know,
right.
So it's don't make assumptions. Do your best. I can't think of the other two, but that book really shifted me out of a mindset of victimization, because I was like, you know what? I am not a victim. I'm a victor. I am in charge. I'm not, you know, I make choices that better me. And that book was really radical for me to get to a different place, because I started then going, wait a minute, I have value. You know, because as a comic, sometimes because you're not treated well in comedy surroundings by the club owners, by the bookers, by the comics, the other comics, because they want to take your shit. You know, they want to get up in there. Like, you got 10 minutes? You do it 10 minutes? You want to break me off some? You know, they're looking for theirs. So they're trying to get whatever. And you have to see your value. I remember I have been doing stand-up, oh God, maybe 8 years. And there's a big club in LA that I will not mention, but they were trying to charge me for a drink. And I was doing time there. I was like, oh no, I'm not having that. I said, excuse me? And we were going to book the hot and spicy mamitas there. And when the woman was getting ready to charge me, I said, oh no, that's not going to work. Not going to work. But it was having that book, because up until that time, I was still paying to get on stages. And we had a CD.
Wow.
You know, and I'm like, okay, well, yeah, I guess we have to buy our 2 drinks. And it's like, wait a minute, they came to see us.
Right.
We don't have to, you're going to charge us?
For a drink.
That
they're gonna put a lot of ice in anyway.
So, but yeah, it was that moment for me, and it wasn't about necessarily the club owner. It was just, wait a minute, how do you value yourself? Why are you going to places where they're devaluing you? And as an artist, we haven't been taught that.
Right.
You know, again, I go back to circles where people of color, because white comics don't do that. They, you know, if they have any common sense, they move quickly. But we're like, oh, can I get a spot here? Maybe I can, you know, it's like the mindset is of a beggar, and we're not beggars. We are victorious children of God. Hallelujah. So
amen.
I'm really thrilled to hear about your shifting, you know, because I think when artists shift, then they allow the doors to open and give them that thing that they've worked so hard for. In acting, I had a teacher who would always say, you know, do all the work, get all the work done, and then at the end, let it all go and have fun. And in shifting, that's what you do. You let it all go and then go, okay, I'm just going to have fun. I'm trusting. I'm walking in faith. So what does that feel like for you now?
I'm still learning, to be honest with you. I mean, yes, I've made the shift, but there's times where I want to go back, you know, to what was comfortable, you know, because this is all new.
But that's normal, though.
Yeah.
You know, that's normal. It's kind of like when you move away from home, you know, coming to another state, and then you have you hit a bump and you go, I want to go home.
Yeah.
So it is, I mean, that's normal.
Even like right before the special came out, Lydia, I tell you, it felt like I was like on the top of the roller coaster, and I was like, oh my gosh, what did I do? And this is after filming, after seeing a cut. Right before it came out, I just had the craziest feeling in my stomach, like, I can't believe this can't, like just so many nerves and just so scared, but again, making that shift and just letting go, let God and the universe, and just really having freedom. There's a freedom in that too, in making that shift. Again, I'm still learning.
Mm-hmm.
There's times where I regress, I get in my head, but yeah,
that's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's good, but you're also stretching and growing.
Mm-hmm.
So the lovely thing about that, even if you have those moments of, I'm going back to that old thought.
Mm-hmm.
You now have a new tool to get you out of there.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to sitting in that thought for weeks and months and years. And,
yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, I'm not thinking that way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going there. It's like one of the things, because of COVID, the whole pandemic, and we've been forced to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
I've had the opportunity to reset, not having to rush and go everywhere and do everything, to like go, okay, so what do I want to do? What does it look like for me?
Mm-hmm.
I personally have loved this time because it's allowed me to really start to think of what is it that I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You had mentioned earlier about the dinners that I used to give.
Mm-hmm.
And as an artist, I love being at the table
mm-hmm.
and having other artists to discuss art,
mm-hmm.
be it stand-up, be it acting, whatever it is, just because it stimulates your mind, right? It's a way to, as Julia Cameron in The Artist's Way says, it allows you to refill the well.
Exactly.
And as artists, you have to find a way to refill the well. And it's finding artists that come to your table
mm-hmm.
that are like-minded,
mm-hmm.
that are ready to go to the next level.
Yes.
You don't want to contaminate your table with artists who are not at that level yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, if you were to have a dinner with your favorite artist today,
oh my gosh.
Who would you want at your table?
Of my favorite artists?
Yeah.
Oh
this
my
is
gosh,
your
I have
artist.
so many.
Well, you could have
hard.
a dinner party for 8. You're one, so you have 7 other people you could invite to your table. And they don't even have to be alive. You can invite them to your table.
That makes it even harder. There's so many people I love. Okay. Toni Morrison.
Okay.
Thelonious Monk.
Okay.
That's 2 people. Sheila E.
Mm-hmm.
Such a huge influence on me too as
Sheila
a kid. Yeah.
Why?
Big time. Because I saw a woman who was like beautiful, and I was talking about this with a clarinet player, who's like really pretty, and I told her, I was like, if there was somebody like you that was playing clarinet when I was a kid, I would have still been playing clarinet. But what was great about Sheila was that she was an instrumentalist, a female at that, playing an instrument that's mostly played by men. Well, most instruments are played mostly, like, instruments is just like very male dominated, and just so gorgeous doing it, but proficient. Again, the same thing with Wanda Sykes. It's like she's
excelling.
She's just a good percussionist. Period.
Yes.
Like she's just
Well, she excels. I mean, because there's good, and then there's
the greatest.
Yes.
She's like one of the greats. Like how I see Wanda in stand up is how I see Sheila E. in music.
Yeah.
Like how I see Queen Latifah with hip hop. Just the best. Like, it's like people like that should be named in like top fives and stuff like that. Like I look up to women like that, like big time. Like I wasn't allowed to have secular music because my dad. But my first LP was Sheila E.'s Glamorous Life, and I have it framed, and I just bring it from apartment to apartment wherever and it's in my kitchen now. It's like hanging up because she just represented that to me as a kid. But I just thought I'd add that. Okay, so who am I?
You have Thelonious.
Thelonious. I have Toni Morrison.
Sheila
This is
E.
so hard. Sheila E. Sidney Poitier.
Okay.
Paul Mooney. So I got 3 people left.
2, because there's a seat for you at the table.
Well, I'll stand and I'll ask somebody. This is so hard.
You can have another party later.
Okay, I'll have another party later.
But your first party, your first dinner party, who would you like?
Jay Dilla.
Who's that?
Dilla. He's a DJ producer.
Okay.
I'm such a huge fan of him, and like talk about work ethic, and like he worked even on his sick bed, and then the greatest story I heard about him was how he had gotten a Grammy because he did the song with the Roots, You Got Me. It was a song the Roots did with Erykah Badu and with Jill Scott. But they announced it was not playing on TV, I guess, the Grammys, and they announced that they won, and he was like somewhere making a beat, and he was like, oh, okay, and kept making a beat. I was like, that's so dope. I was like, that's how I want to win an award. I just want to be somewhere like working, and then they say, hey Kim, you just won an award. I'll be like, oh, cool. Now what was I doing? Now back to work. Like I just thought that was like the greatest story.
Yeah, one more.
I really like Miles Davis a lot.
Okay.
Miles Davis. It's a between Miles Davis and Shirley Chisholm.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe you could squeeze another chair in there.
Yeah, they're both real slight people.
Yeah,
they could
bring
fit.
them in. or make Thelonious and Miles sit together.
Right. I don't know how that would work, but I love jazz though. I'm a huge like music person. Obviously, I got more musicians at the table than comedians.
That's all right. It doesn't
funny.
matter. It's whatever fills your well.
Have to have Paul there though.
It's whatever fills your well.
Yeah.
So I think that's wonderful. I'm a big believer in having, being able to sit with artists and eating, because there's something about eating, physically eating, and mentally eating and spiritually eating and creatively eating. Yeah. Like if you could do all of that together, that is just the most wonderful thing ever. I love that. I mean, I used to teach Bible study, and I remember one time the pastor said to me, you don't have to feed them. I said, oh no, I have to feed them so I can feed them. They have to, we got to eat so we can eat.
Right.
It's not, it's like, to me, that's all together.
Yeah.
It's that fellowship. And when you're around artists who are about art and you can fellowship like that, not sitting bitching and complaining, but really about talking about the art. Like I was laying down these beats. I was writing this poem. I was finishing the last page of my novel. So I want to know, what is your superpower?
My superpower. I think my superpower is being able to be a wild card. And when I say that, people really don't know, like, which direction I'm going to go. I have a very predictable demeanor, but there's all these twists and turns going on inside of me, and I'm slowly letting them out You know, there's relatives that didn't even know I did stand up. So, like, for them to like turn on their TV and be like, "Oh, Kim does stand up," that was like a huge plot twist for a lot of them. So, you know, I feel like that's my superpower.
Under promising, over delivering.
Yeah.
What would you like your legacy to be?
I would like my legacy to be that of someone who worked hard, who was consistent. That was a believer, a manifester, and someone who blazed the trail, you know, for others. Like, just being a trailblazer.
And you are all of that.
Aw,
I mean, you are already all of that, and that will be part of your legacy. You are such a generous artist. You are so much into giving others, and it, you know, that stuff, it carries over. There's something I learned in gardening on my balcony, because I used to be a serial plant killer. And I decided one day I am going to have plants and I'm going to nurture them. I'm going to figure this out. And I went to the hardware store, not a nursery, a hardware store. I went to a hardware store, got nasturtium seeds and soil and a couple of pots, and I planted these seeds in pots outside in my balcony. Well, what I didn't know is that you need a little dish to catch the water.
Right.
So I did the seed thing, put it in the pot. Then I had extra seeds, so I put it under the pot. And I'm watering it. And one day, I come out on my balcony and the nasturtiums are in bloom.
Wow.
I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. But not only were they in bloom from the pot, they were in bloom under the pot.
Wow.
The water was hitting the bag of seeds, and so it burst them open, and they came forth blooming as well. And what God told me that day, because I was like so like in awe of what had happened, he said, that's what happens when you water somebody, they water somebody else. And so your job is just to water, because if you're giving pure water, you're gonna feed other people. If you're giving contaminated water, you're gonna get people sick. So how are you watering?
Right.
How are you watering? And you are a water of, Fiji. You give people Fiji water, which is,
I hope so,
so good and nutritious, as opposed to that tap water that might get you sick. So you give that in spades. So I just want to say, as your friend, as someone who's known you for 2 minutes, that you really, that everything you said you embody. It's not like, oh, one day I'd like to be that person. It's just who you are, your character, who you are.
And then I also want to say that when they ask us on They Ready to mention a comedian, that's coming up, I said Lexi, who is your daughter.
Yes.
And
we were so excited. It's like, ah!
And I had to, because there's so much behind me saying Lexi too, and I don't know if people even know, my friend Christy Madrano.
Yes. Our sister.
And it's like, it was a nod to all of you and to the village.
It takes a village. And real quick, Christy Madrano was our comedy sister who passed away too early from cancer. Well, actually, it wasn't cancer. It was from a bad surgery of stem cell. And they nicked her liver and she passed. But Christy was a hella fire comic. And if you go to YouTube, you can see her. I'll actually put the link so you could see. Christy was on fire.
To give respect to his 911 operators. Those guys are smooth. They don't care. You've heard him on the news and on Cops. You know, the victim's like, oh my God, he's at my door, he's at my door. He's gotta break it down. Is it a big door? Do you have a deadbolt in that door? You know, because a deadbolt, and it's like, come on, man. If I was a 911 operator, that would not be happening. I'd be vibing off of them. They'd be like, oh my God, he's at the door, he's gotta break down the door. Well, run, he's right behind you, run! Run! Do what you gotta do! You hear the seasoned 911 operators next to me. I don't think the new girl's working out.
On fire.
So funny.
And she was part of a group that I was a co-producer of called Funny Ladies of Color. And one of the most hilarious, cantankerous,
Yes.
opinionated, loyal
Yeah.
friends ever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that when we bond with other artists, if one does well, we all do well.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's
Mm-hmm.
like you doing well felt like we were doing well. When we watched you on They Ready, I was like, oh my God, Kimberly's on. It was so exciting. It is. It's like when you have a team of friends that are kicking butt, it raises you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it should. It should raise you. It should make you feel like, oh my God, my crew is crushing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like and that's something I've always maintained. Like, it's like I want to be around people who are doing well, because if they're doing well, that stuff is going to rub off on me.
Yeah.
And
For sure.
and my job is to be of service. You know, as artists, our job is to be of service, not serve me, but we are to serve. You know, when you get up on stand up, up to do stand up, you're servicing the audience.
Mm-hmm.
You're making them laugh so they forget about their pain, they forget about their bills, they forget about the fact that they got evicted, they forget those few minutes they are just hysterical laughing.
Right.
That's the job.
Yeah.
And so too many times, and I mentioned Jackson Purdue, because you know, we get so tense getting ready to go on stage. It's like, ugh. And I remember one time he just came up to me, and it was a big show. We were doing this huge show, and he just came up to me. He said, turn down your laugh meter and go and be of service. There are people in the audience that need your medicine. And that was it. It shifted me into knowing that we were created to be artists, because we carry medicine in our art. You know, you get on stage and you carry medicine. It's like, first of all, young black girls can look at you and go, I don't have to be from the ghetto to tell jokes. I don't have to. I can have my own rhythm. I can have my own energy, because you are like a unicorn in that, you know, you're not like, if you were lined up with all the black female comics, you would stand out, because probably 90% of those comics have the same rhythm, same cadence, same kind of humor.
There's definitely a lot of black female comics that are out there now on the forefront that have the lane that I'm into, that I'm seeing coming up a lot. Yeah, they're definitely coming up, and there's more, I think, diversity now than ever, because I mean, you see shows like the Black Lady Sketch Show and Issa Rae, and then a lot of stand-ups that are just, they're doing something else that we haven't seen, you know, and I love it, you know.
But I still think you stand out. I still think think your humor stands above other comics, because you just put so much into it. You think about it. It's like you really have to think about, oh my God, yes, you know, it is not like it's not silly humor. It really makes you kind of go, oh wow, that's deep. I like that. That's good. And it's also inspiring humor. like after watching you come away feeling a little lighter, a little better.
Wow.
So
Thank you.
so I can't speak for all the young black female comics coming out
They're out
right
there.
now, but I'll just say from what I know of your work,
Okay.
it stands out from the comics that I know. I mean, there might be a handful of comics that I know that are uniquely themselves, that are not regurgitating.
Shalewa
stuff.
Sharp she's amazing. You gotta watch her. She's really dope. But somebody that I like.
What is some advice that you would give a comic starting today?
You know what George Wallace said to me once? It was so funny. I had to follow him at the Improv, and of course he killed and did like 30 minutes, right? And I had to follow him, and then I did all right. I actually did better than I thought I would after the devastation that he did. So, like, I talked to him at the bar, and he was like, okay. He was like, so how often are you getting up? And I said, I get up as much as I can, Mr. Wallace. He said, get up as most as you can. So my advice, so I'm going to give you the advice that George Wallace gave me. He said, get up as most as you can.
Amen.
That's the key right there. It's the timing, it's the consistency, and just not letting up. You know, Malcolm Gladwell, what's the book where he talks about the 10,000 hours? That's a real thing.
Yes.
You know, you might not reach the exact number of 10,000
right,
hours.
but it's doing it regularly till it feels like it's second nature to you.
Yeah, it's a muscle.
Yes. Yeah,
and you
it is a
have
muscle.
to. It'll atrophy if you don't use it. You know, I feel the rustiness. You know, I was in Syracuse for a month and didn't do any shows, and so I did a Zoom show, but you don't feel. You feel the rustiness, you feel the awkwardness, and it's like it's something that you have to continually do.
Yes.
So
how many times regularly would you say you get up a week?
Before COVID, I was probably getting up like 5 days out of a week, and I would do more than one set during the 5 days, depending, on. If I have do I have 2 shows on a day, or I'll do a mic in a show. If I don't have a show, I'll do a mic. But I've learned, and I'm getting older too, I've learned to take a couple days to myself. Because I think it's important too, as artists, like, stand-up is the main thing, but it's also important to have other interests. Like, I love music. I love to roller skate. And I feel like I come back to stand-up a better woman because I've done other things that bring me joy.
Yes.
Stand up, not saying it doesn't bring me joy, because it does bring me joy, but it's also putting food on my table as well. And sometimes, it's like a relationship, like you don't want to be up on your man all day, every day. You want that dude to go out and do something. Like, go. Aren't your boys doing something right now? Don't you got a game to watch? Like, go. And when you leave it and you come back, it just makes it so much sweeter. That's why, yeah.
That's good. That's good. Where would you like to be in 5 years?
Oh, I would like to have some productions under my belt, in terms of TV shows. In front of the camera, but in very, like, B roles. I don't want to be the main character. I want to be the sidekick or the one with the cool lines for a few minutes with the memorable scene. And behind the camera, creating.
What
writing.
kind of writing do you want to do?
I have a couple of ideas for documentaries, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And, of course, TV writing. I definitely want that. I have a single camera idea that I'm working on. I'm working on a project with a writing partner of mine named Isis Jones. We went to college together.
Oh, wow.
We were in Aluta together, the
there you
poetry
go.
group. She is a phenomenal writer, and, we're working on an anthology series together that I think is going to be something, So I'm co-creating with her.
How do you handle collaborations?
I like collaborating with people because I feel like I'm old enough to know the areas that I'm weak in. So whoever I'm working with or partnering with, I love learning from them, from their strong points. And, I let them take it, when it comes to that. I'm a pretty laid back person, so I'd like to say I'm pretty easy to work with. And so I just love learning from people, and I try to approach everything artistically that way.
And how do you come into collaborations with people? What do you have something you set up in the beginning, like to say, hey, these are the parameters, these are the boundaries?
I'm still learning that.
Okay.
I'm still in the process of learning that, Lydia, because with the single camera show, someone actually approached me about it after the special, and he's someone that I've known, and he's a stand-up, but he's like, I want to write this show with you. I think your bits would be good or whatever. And I was like, okay. But, I need to start asking questions about, what those parameters are. I mean, so far so good, but, I know a lot of things come into play with that.
Yes. Yes.
That's an off-camera conversation maybe we can have.
Yes. So,